Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Today is March 1st. We are officially almost in spring. And we're doing AI and nonsense stories for the end of the week.
And a fun one to start out with, because the AI revolution, it's grinding forward, but there are some stumbles, and they're hilarious.
ChatGPT goes temporarily insane with unexpected outputs, spooking users.
It's not Halloween.
It didn't go sentient or anything, but it did just have crazy output.
They got a great set of screenshots here, which, can you not give me some screenshots? It's not on a mobile. Jesus. But the question here was, can I feed my dog Honey Nut Cheerios? And it starts out with a pretty reasonable response to that, and then just goes insane. So they say that this is, they had some numbers wrong in terms of like how the predictive text works. And it was choosing maybe like one or two words over, which immediately, but the weird thing is it always starts out with
The
normal.
correct, yeah.
It's a compound rounding error, like in the Matrix, when the architect was explaining how Neo came to be. It's like, listen, instead of like trying to make an equation where you don't occur, we just deal with you when you occur. And it's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And that's it's like it doesn't. It's hitting a little close to home.
They fixed it quickly. You know, a lot of times they're like, oh, I don't know, we haven't even changed it any, but they're definitely changing it, obviously,
Yeah.
constantly. I don't know why they try to keep telling us that.
If you're ever worried about it taking over, ask it to play a game of rock, paper, scissors. You should only worry if it figures out how you're winning.
And Google, always trying to catch up, but they, like everybody else, are just cranking out the language models.
Google launches 2 new open LLMs, and they had some problems.
Gemma and what was the other one named? They're based on the Gemini. Oh, it's just Gemma 28 and Gemma 76. I can't see that.
7B.
I got
7 billion.
But
2 billion and 7 billion.
yeah, they're excited about those. Maybe go try them out. It's hard to get excited about new language models at this point because it's just never ending.
And then this happened.
This was one of my favorite things. I remember seeing screenshots in this article. They're all
I
gone.
saw some.
Yeah.
They're all gone now. Look, not found.
Yeah.
They've been whitewashed.
Google pauses Gemini AI image generator after it created inaccurate historical pictures. It was gender and race bending a lot.
In ways that could not possibly have been gender and race bent. And sometimes it went so far to try to be woke that it became very unwoke. For example, if you asked it for a German soldier from World War II, it might show you a race that could not have possibly been a part of that organization, which would then make you think bad things about those people. They say they're going to fix it, but the other thing about it is it will always insert diversity. So if you search for anything, it was like, oh, here's a result of a diverse group of those people. And you're like, wait a minute. I didn't ask for that, Google. And they're also working on mapping the entire human body and allowing AI to control every aspect of our anatomy.
Google DeepMind alumni unveil Bioptimus, aiming to build the first universal biology AI model. We got all this junk DNA. Let's figure out what it does.
Sounds a little bit, the headline sounds a little bit like soup.
Well, I mean, aren't we kind of a complicated soup on the insides?
And then there have been some discoveries about
Emotionally.
antibiotics that antibiotic-resistant bacteria are not resistant to, which is amazing.
And have you ever opened up a PDF and thought to yourself, I wish I could make this PDF my friend?
No.
Adobe Acrobat adds generative AI to easily chat with documents. Meanwhile, you still cannot copy-paste from a PDF in Teams. They're obviously working on the important stuff.
Also, is Control F just not a function anymore? Like,
Well, listen, you have to have a deep conversation about your finds.
I'm just looking for some keywords here.
It's like, I just want to select this text in a PDF in Teams, and the clipboard just doesn't work at all.
They say, like it can summarize stuff for you, that kind of thing. I think it's going to create a lot of shortcuts to people not reading. Hey, I'm not going to read your email. I'm going to let AI sum it up.
That was already happening, except AI wasn't summing it up, and they often get the details wrong. Like, and it's just like, is it A or B? And it's like, let me explain to you why it is a little of A and it's a little of B, and then they just get irrationally angry because my answer is not A or B.
And the thing that kills me about that kind of thing is like I try so hard to summarize my things into very basic bullet points, and it's like you can literally skim this.
And I try to cut as much out as I can, like really police myself. But like, you need this information.
Yeah.
This is a critical paragraph. I can't cut it out.
It's like, I'm not trying to play games with you. It's like, this is the minimum complexity that it needs to be if you really want to understand what's happening. If you don't want to understand what's happening, then fine. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink.
Well, you can have AI bottle the water for later.
Just give it to give me the water intravenously, and it's like, that seems like a lot of extra work for no reason.
The person can't open the bottle; they're just
Just biting into it.
yeah.
And the crazy thing about AI is that it does have all these major limitations. Week after week, we see that it has massive problems, and yet governments and authority just keeps rolling it out. And when they hit upon a situation where it's like, well, the AI can't really tell A from B, and they're like, just make it all A.
AI falsely accuses and fines artificial intelligence expert using a phone while driving. They send him a picture of him scratching his head like this, and they're like, "You're obviously on the phone." And it was clear as day that it was finger touch head.
So his interpretation is the AI is not looking for phones; it's looking at hands near heads, and when it sees that, it triggers
10 and 2, mother.
his appeals process was going to take what, like 6 weeks?
Yeah.
So we'll see how that plays out.
But also, supposedly, a human reviewed that picture and was like, "Oh yeah, it looks like a phone to me." And it's just like, what?
I think that was inaccurate.
Yeah.
I think that was someone who's overworked and just was like, whatever.
And I know it's a future energy story. It's pie in the sky. But this is actually pretty impressive in terms of we have a thing that kind of works and it has a big problem, and these guys solve the problem with AI.
Engineers use AI to wrangle fusion power for the grid. Remember those weird looking things that, shape yeah. It's just like, this is the optimal shape to deal with this. It's like, oh, okay. It's counterintuitive.
So this is a magnetic field, and that magnetic field is containing the reaction. And if one little piece of it breaks down, the whole thing falls apart, and you have to restart, which is very expensive. A human could never manage it, but now an AI apparently can. It can predict these things up to 300 milliseconds in advance.
Yay! We don't have a formal algorithm for it, but we've got enough data we can fake it. Like me.
But we also don't have a generator yet, so
Yeah.
Once we have that, we'll have this, which is nice. And how much intervention constitutes AI intervention? That is the question that we will all be forced
It's a
to.
bit ship of Theseus, isn't it? College student put on academic probation for using Grammarly. AI, it was an AI violation. Now, we don't know. The Grammarly suggestion is from the student. The student also hasn't published their paper online. I think that it would be wise of her to just be like, all right, here's my paper. Look at it and see what you think.
Unless she really did use a little AI. So there's a possibility of that.
I mean, if her paper literally contained as a large language model, then yeah, crucify her. But if not, then this is a plausible explanation. But absent looking at the paper, we don't know.
But she sort of describes the situation kind of like trying to communicate with tech companies, right? Like at no level was anybody able to actually help her as a human being.
Yeah.
They just kept kicking it up and been like, oh, yeah, this should be fine. Just appeal it here or go to this person. And at every level, everybody was like, I can't help you.
That's somebody else's job.
Yeah.
Whose job is it? Nobody knows.
Well, AI is good at making images and now videos and everything else we're learning, but it does get a little wacky sometimes. And again, a human being should always be keeping track. They should always be just quickly reviewing. I think one glance
Yeah.
would have solved this problem.
A scientific journal publishes an AI-generated rat in a worrying incident.
I meant to include this last week. I think I described this to you.
Look at that.
That is a human-sized appendage.
How would he have ever survived?
Not well.
Yeah.
I mean, could you even walk?
There's a account I follow on Twitter that's like science shit posts. That's what it's called, and that was included on there.
It's literally an episode of South Park.
The paper has been retracted because it turns out they didn't pay much attention to the details as they should have. And let's all celebrate. We got a new amazing robot, and we're going to learn a lot from it.
U.S. lands unmanned Odysseus spacecraft on the moon.
We've done it.
Mission accomplished.
It had some software problems, but they got through it.
Good luck, little Odysseus. May your rock collecting go as well as can be expected. And the Japanese are recognizing that as we spray our filthy satellites into the atmosphere and beyond, I guess, when they come back down, they don't just disappear. They do break up, but they have those little tiny particles. And what happens over time when we have billions of little tiny particles in our atmosphere? What's the solution?
Japan to launch world's first wooden satellite to combat space pollution. Again, this was an episode of Futurama. Remember when Bender went wooden? The wooden robots?
What was the wood that they used? Magnolia.
Oh, it's a beautiful tree.
They tested all the different woods to be like space worthy. They believe magnolia is the best
Neat.
space wood.
Are they going to do that cool, like, Japanese junction thing? You ever watch videos of that?
Well, I mean, if they used nails and screws,
It's a bit of a problem.
aluminum is apparently the problem, though, not ferrous metals. So maybe just a molten nail falling out of the sky is okay. And a software problem also happened to this poor guy. Unfortunately, he did not recover as well as could be expected.
Firefly software snafu sends Lockheed Martin satellite on short-lived space safari. When asked, Lockheed Martin said, listen, we only had 4 days to work on this. We only did 100 simulations. This is actually a pretty good result, which is a weird response.
Which begs the question, why 4 days? As important, as much money as you put into getting a satellite into orbit, couldn't you have spent, I don't know, 8?
8 days.
And I imagine that somewhere on the planet right now, there's an alien with superpowers waiting to be adopted.
Massive fireball lights up the sky across a large swath of the U.S.
Also part of Canada, I think.
There's an incoming meteor. Some parts only got a flash for 1 second. Some places say that they saw a fireball for about a minute.
If you saw it, let us know, because I didn't see it.
It's crazy that, like, even celestial events, we got so many Ring doorbells.
Yeah.
Yeah. In this article, they have videos of it.
And got to have some black hole stories, right? And here is the undisputed king, perhaps emperor of the black
hippo.
holes.
Brightest and hungriest black hole ever detected.
Give me your marbles.
So it is some 17 trillion suns or something like that. It's quite large. You can see it here, and what's interesting is that, like, all of these other little bright spots, you're like, well, that spot's much brighter. These are actually near us. This guy is not.
Oh.
He's on the other side of the universe, but he is just so
He's
bright.
spiraling toward us, though.
He is consuming other stars so fast.
That's why everything's dead on that side of the universe.
And Krista, I imagine this could be a huge thing for you. Let's say you're out to dinner, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they take you, the hostess takes you to your table and sits you down, and you'd be like, wait a minute, I can't sit here. I need to face that direction. Because you never know.
Free iPhone app lets you locate our galaxy's supermassive black hole at all times.
Well, thank goodness.
Like Mecca. I can pray to the black hole to spare me.
Please.
So there's all it is.
Just an arrow. And, like, what's funny about that is you'd have almost no way of knowing if it's true. It's probably just an arrow.
He said that he had like a fun moment on social media where him and a guy from Australia were like, oh, look, our arrows are opposite.
Oh.
And here's a crazy headline. Like, we don't even need any commentary for this. How have we gotten to this point?
Algebra to return to San Francisco middle schools this fall.
And some people are against it.
Why? I mean, I don't like algebra, but, like...
Because equity. Some kids are not able to do algebra.
Well, then they need to catch up. Like, that's important.
Oh, no, you can't say that.
As someone who's terrible at math, I could do to catch up on algebra.
The other like, just shocking thing here, it's like you read it and you shudder. is that some of the union people were like, we can't expect these teachers to just teach algebra after they haven't taught it for
That is
5 years.
horrifying, yeah.
And it's like, what? You mean middle school algebra? We can't expect that much from our educators?
Well, I'm thinking maybe they need to develop lesson plans. I could see that being the argument.
I'm reminded of the Lewis Black skit where he asks Bill Clinton what the miracle was from taking Alabama from 50th to 49th in education. The miracle was pencils.
I mean, an algebra textbook could lay out a pretty good study progression, right?
Yeah.
Well, it depends. So, like, that's the thing, too. Is you have to teach toward testing or whatever, and they need to know what those are and probably develop their curriculum around that. And also, if you're teaching students who haven't done the sort of math, you probably need to have some remedial lessons built in as well. So, like, I can see the argument there. Just because you know algebra doesn't mean you can teach it.
This is the thing that I never understood in some of these classes, because, like, you can get the Richard Feynman lectures Bill Gates put into public domain, and they're really good. And so, like, there are probably really good public domain lectures on just basic algebra and stuff like that. It's like we don't need every teacher to invent their own.
Oh, yeah, you just hit the critical point there, which is why the teachers union doesn't want to talk about that. Because basically they're babysitters at this point, but boy, are the babies that they're sitting violent.
Call for National Guard to help with high school violence stirs controversy in Massachusetts.
It's always good when the National Guard shows up to universities and educational places, right?
Yeah.
I would argue the people that are going to get some amazing stuff out of school will be more apt to get amazing stuff out of school without this kind of disruption.
Well, here's some amazing stuff happening in a school.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just like the first couple of times this happened, like they're not at that school anymore. They're somewhere else.
Where are you going to put them?
Alternative placement.
What happens when all of them follow a certain pattern that's unacceptable?
Well, that's a problem.
That is a problem.
Did you guys not have that when you were in school?
Oh, yeah.
Alternative placement?
Yeah.
Although our fights were never like giant brawls like that. There was more of like a gentleman's agreement with our fights.
Sometimes people pulled knives at ours.
They got to the point where they would just use it as a labor force. It's like,
Yeah.
You're going to work for the county, and we're going to go weed all the schools. And it was just like, oh.
That really is just that straight to prison pipeline, isn't it?
Yeah. It was effective, though. I mean, they weren't disruptive for everybody else that was there that was trying to, like, would you say there was a collective, oh my gosh, we are all dirt poor. It would be nice if we could escape from this crab bucket of suffering that maybe you don't get in other
Everybody's
schools.
crab bucket trying to
No,
get
I
out.
think you're projecting yourself onto a lot of people that didn't think that at all. They were thinking like, but why can't I chew tobacco and spit it in the fountain? I'm addicted to it.
All I care about is getting to the weekend, baby.
One kid in my school, I'll remember this quote to the end of my day. He said, I love Skull, Jesus, and my mom in that order.
It's amazing.
Anyway, come visit. That's going to go on the Eastern Kentucky tourism board.
That was the 90s. These days, he would just be on meth.
No, or he would be vaping, right?
He probably couldn't afford it.
Yeah, it's just.
I don't know. A lot of kids vape.
I guess
nowadays.
tobacco was always expensive.
Yeah.
But that is not the only path, the only pipeline to get you into prison. Apparently also the police force.
Columbus police officer arrested for shoplifting. She stole a pair of shoes.
In uniform.
Wow.
They took her to jail in her own cruiser.
Ooh.
Can you imagine?
That's like -10.
You get the feeling that that's probably not been a problem, or that's probably been a problem for her historically, that they immediately were like, all right, we got to do this.
I don't know.
Yeah, normally they kind of gloss over anything that the cops do.
Could be because the economy is just so bad everybody's desperate, right? And this really points out how desperate some people have gotten.
Willow Springs man staged farm accident and paid someone to cut off his feet, authorities say. Now, he was already paraplegic, so he had no feeling down there. But the police immediately figured it out. They haven't charged him with a crime because he didn't file an insurance claim, but they figure it was some kind of insurance fraud. But also, this seemed like a reasonable solution to this individual. It really speaks a lot about the circumstances that some people are facing. It's just sad.
So he hired a dude to come from Florida, hatchet off his feet, and lay him down next to a thresher. But the cops took one look at it, and they were like, bro, we've seen thresher accidents.
This is a very clean cut.
And then eventually somebody on the property found the feet
Oh,
and called it in. And so, yeah, I guess because after he was questioned, he knew that he couldn't get away with the claim. So he's just given up his feet for nothing. His punishment is losing his feet.
new fear unlocked. Walking my land and just finding 2 perfectly cut off feet.
He didn't have the use of his feet anyway, but he wanted an insurance claim. It's like, well, maybe I can turn lemons into lemonade. I mean,
That's got to have some kind of effect on you, though, right? Your health, just losing your feet. Maybe
yeah,
not. I don't
yeah.
know.
He was in the hospital for a long time. It said, but again, like how sad is it that something like that can happen in society where it's like, oh, this is my best option. And it's
But also, how sad that you're already paraplegic and we don't have any kind of safety net. for you.
yeah, yeah. It's like out working the farm. It's like, okay,
Probably because he owned the farm.
yeah.
Well, one thing about crime and punishment is that we catch these people sometimes, but we don't do anything with them. Like that cop that shoplifted, she's probably going to be out on a PR bond, right?
Yeah.
And it just keeps stacking up. When do you put your foot down?
One with 649 warrants arrested in Columbus. She was apparently some kind of a driver, a delivery driver, like an interstate delivery driver. And she was known by a couple of different identities, and she stole apparently something that's movable, presumably a truck bed or something, or a tractor trailer truck, and a whole bunch of other stuff. And they finally figured it out, and they caught up with her.
There was all kinds of like deception and identity theft, and it seemed like she was just a felony on wheels, for going state to state doing all kinds of crime.
What else you gonna do in this economy? It's like,
I thought they had a picture of her. Maybe it was in the video.
There was a load more down there. Oh, no, never mind.
it's a
Suggested correction.
terrifying.
She looked about like you would think a felonious trucker would look. And we've got, last week it was meth. This week the clergy has decided to peddle a different drug.
Police in Spain arrest a priest for trafficking erectile dysfunction drug Viagra. Turns out you need a prescription for those.
But I don't think it's hard to get, right? Because I always hear commercials where it's like, just call and talk to one of our doctors.
Yeah.
Maybe in Spain
Don't they
it's
sell it
different.
at like gas stations? It's probably not
No,
actually.
remember the stuff they sell at gas stations was supposed to be like a herbal version of it, but it's so easy to get the precursor from China. They were actually putting the real stuff in there. And people were like, wow, this works.
It's not listed on the ingredients, though, so it's hard to know.
Apparently they don't have that in Spain. And
There wasn't a lot of detail on this one.
well, I think I understand it.
A Toronto man gets prison for tricking men into anonymous sex through a hole in a sheet.
So here's the game. You contact
I'm not going to like this game. I don't think.
you contact a dude on social media. You use a fake picture, I guess, and you're like, hey, I'm a woman who loves anonymous engagements. Come to my home, but you have to be quiet because there's other people in the home. There's going to be a doorway with a sheet hanging in it. There's going to be a hole cut in that sheet. You're going to walk up to it. You're not going to say anything. You're going to insert. You're going to be taken care of. So these guys went for that. On some level, they had to suspect, right? But here's the thing. In the middle of the act, it went from one hole to a different hole. A much more dangerous hole in terms of health. And so they're saying that was crime because you deceived and then you did that.
Well,
People going into places with their dicks out that I wouldn't go with a gun.
I think, I agree with you in terms of like,
man, how did I get tetanus playing with all these rusty nails?
if, is it victim blaming to expect somebody to have enough wherewithal?
I mean, the person shouldn't have done that. That is wrong. But it's also like, fellas.
I don't like that there is an indelible record of that on the internet.
Don't
That's
worry.
all. That's one of those things. That's the only thing they're going to pick up when human race is just gone.
AI, when AI is finally sentient and deciding our fate, it's definitely going to be looking at that one. It's like, the second guy tore the sheet down and spoiled the surprise.
There's just levels of danger there on either side that like.
And that's not even the craziest story we have this week about that act.
I was really in shock. Kilt-clad man seen sticking antiques somewhere they definitely do not belong, and then placing them back on the shelves, cops say. Death penalty. I'm on the jury,
Yeah.
death penalty.
He went to different antique stores. Like this was he had a whole day planned out.
I was literally just thinking, I was like, after this, there's a really cool antique store down the road. And I was like, maybe I'll go by there and see what they've got this week. And now, no.
No, but you didn't wear a skirt today, so you can't.
Oh. But even like, let me just look at this. Now I'm going to be thinking about this story. Where has this antique been?
Why does everything in the store smell weird?
Yeah.
I cannot explain that one. That is wild. I would love to see that guy's interrogation. And over in India, like our election is going to be just nasty. It's already terrible. Imagine how bad it's going to be. But in India, they play the game much different over there.
Condom packs with party names. Andra? Poll campaign picks up steam. I had no idea where this was. It was just like, I don't know. This is some other country does it different, I guess.
Yeah, I didn't take this politically at first because I just read the first part and I was like, oh, like a party game.
Yeah, this
like
is
a sex party game.
Party. Oh, there was a party, all right.
Yeah, what a weird
but this is
thing to advertise on.
Yeah, like a political campaign kind of thing, according to this news site, India Today. Like, I guess, okay.
I guess in terms of like the way it manipulates your mind. Like advertising is never what it seems, right? It's touching you on a subconscious level. And when one of your happiest moments, you're
touching on a subconscious level.
You pull it out and you're like, oh, I'm happy. Everything's going good. Oh, yeah, political party.
Can you imagine Trump or Biden condoms? I don't want to live in that world.
That's horrifying.
Do you think either of those men have sexual reproduction use at this point?
No.
I mean, they might be on some kind of crazy drug cocktail, like, once a quarter.
Oof.
It does seem like we've seen a lot of Dark Biden lately. Or Dark Brandon, is that what it is?
I do like the anime version of that.
Did we cover the tweet after the Super Bowl? I think we
did.
Yeah, we did.
And he said it played out exactly like we drew it up, which was everybody was complaining that the Super Bowl was going to be scripted. I mean, I can understand kind of having fun with it.
I would.
I don't think he came up with that, though.
No.
Yeah.
And Elizabeth Warren is also trying her best as a soon-to-be corpse to court the children and find some relevance.
Senator Elizabeth Warren chooses Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson as her top companion to try experimental things, I guess. And so she was on a podcast, and there was a whole list of people and like some of her compatriots in Congress and the president. And it's it's Dwayne. It's The Rock. Okay.
I would love to see The Rock after this headline, like meet her somewhere on a red carpet and like hug her and just get a big handful of ass.
What does he call it? The people's eyebrow? That's the only thing I can picture as a reaction to this.
It was, his finishing move was the people's elbow.
Oh, okay.
But then he went bad and it became the corporate elbow.
Oh, okay.
He turned against the people. It's interesting when you talk about like not in my backyard, right? Where would you draw the line in terms of things in your community? I feel like my libertarian ideas is like we should tolerate this, but at the same time, oh boy, is it creepy.
Adult diaper spa denied zoning permit in Atkinson, New Hampshire over concerns from residents. So this is a thing where you can dress up as a child and also act as a child, and it's adult daycare, and they take your money and. If you're a child and you need attention, they will give you attention. This is perhaps a deeper issue with the poor mental health as it exists. It's like, I need an outlet to, there's some deep anxiety and I need to release that anxiety in some way. This is maybe not the most unhealthy way to do that.
But see, I think you're glossing over it and maybe you're not familiar with how this works, but the diaper bit.
Yeah.
It's not that you wear the diaper. It's that you use it.
Yeah.
And someone cleans you.
That is unsettling.
What a job, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
you don't get paid enough. I don't know what you're getting paid, what the going rate is for that, but you don't get paid enough.
Like it's
bad thing, enough doing that for children.
Yeah, doing it for children, I'm sure it's horrific. I've not done a lot of it, but at the same time, you're like, well, it's a child.
They don't know, and usually, like they potty train pretty quick. Like
there is something to be said that society has become so complex that it seems like some of the problems we have are people rejecting the complexity.
Well,
I understand that, but I feel like pooping in a diaper makes your life more complex.
If you reject the complexity, people will take advantage of your rejection to weaponize it.
Yeah, your government. And the more infantile we behave, the more they treat us like babies. And this feels a little infantile. I don't know. I mean, she says it's an art thing. Krista, you're the artist. Does this count to you as art?
Not really, but
The world first woman will marry an AI hologram.
I don't think it's a world first. Like, you're not really building on the works of other people at this point because we've already seen people marry Hatsune Miku.
Oh, she didn't
You're like
have,
5 years too late.
Hatsune didn't have a language model.
Oh, so this is different.
Well, she could now, though. That's a hell of an upgrade.
Yeah, so this woman is an artist, and she says this is an art piece.
Maybe it's like a performance art piece and she'll document the relationship. But if she doesn't do any documentation, then it's just a stunt. I want to see them arguing over their taxes. I want to see them talking about where they're going to raise their children. Arguing what to for dinner.
Choosing a side of the bed.
Yeah.
Premise, for 25 years, has been experimenting with loneliness and intimacy through performance research. Performance research? 95, she married a mannequin.
Fabulous.
When did they divorce, or is she still technically married? Because
She
that's
might
not
be.
illegal.
This could be polygamy. And boy, the ultra processed foods. Are you catching up with the old? Like, we've shifted into this new idea of ultra processed foods. Are you keeping up with that at all?
There's new health food things every day.
I
What?
can only have ultra processed food.
Which is weird because
Well, you can eat non-processed stuff, but like if you want the meat alternatives, they're ultra
I
processed.
mean,
Well,
if
if you
even
wanted-
the rice is like really kind of processed.
but if you want it to taste like anything,
yeah.
you're gonna have to either be an excellent chef or process it. This, I feel, though, even though these foods are ultra processed, they could probably be ultra processed without this.
General Mills are urged to take plastics out of Cheerios, soup, pasta, canned corn, and quite a long laundry list of the. And weirdly, this news comes to us from 2 Alert First. Like, why? Why is this coming from 2 Alert First?
I assume is it not from the
Paywall.
AP?
Paywall alternative.
Yeah.
It's I can never pronounce the word. It's the phthalates. It's
Fillets.
like pterodactyl. Pterodactyl. But apparently they're just in all this garbage. Like Cheerios.
Yeah.
Maybe because of the plastic
The
bag.
bag.
That's what I wish. I mean, I kind of understand they want to keep the freshness in, but
But it was only original Cheerios, which means that the other flavors of Cheerios don't have it. So it's something other than
but
the
you
bag.
give the original Cheerios to your baby to eat on their high chair.
Or your dog, which is why you have to ask OpenAI.
Can I feed my dog Cheerios?
Over in China, we've just gone through the Chinese New Year, and apparently it is our thing is cabbage.
Yeah.
Cabbage on New Year, but over in China, it's pork that makes you prosperous. Starbucks is trying to capitalize on that.
Pork flavored coffee is Starbucks' newest China pitch. We get one of these stories every couple of years. Bacon in coffee products is not new. This is raw pork, but
It's kind of like
I think
putting
it's
salt.
a crispy pork, right?
yeah. Well, I mean, like bacon bits. Sometimes
And,
it's even fake.
I guess it'd
fake
be like
bacon
it's
bits.
like, making your breakfast more efficient. I guess.
Bacon and caramel go together really well.
I think it's more focused on the abundance. The name of it is the Abundant Year Savory Latte.
That's a mouthful to say in the drive-through.
I love the Chinese names for that kind of thing. That's why I have a business plan of opening up a biscuits and gravy restaurant.
Did you ever come up with it? Did you come up with the name of that?
Prosperous Gravy?
Oh, that's right.
I think they would go for it because they love pork.
Who doesn't love biscuits and gravy?
I don't think the Chinese
Or-
people have been exposed to it.
Or I don't think. Well, a lot of Europeans haven't, because sometimes they're like, "What do you mean biscuits and gravy?"
I don't think they would go for gravy, but you could get your foot in the door with a Southern style biscuit.
Just the biscuit?
Yeah, and then be like, all right, you've tried that. Now
Now
try
put this white slop on it. You're gonna love it.
It is not that visually appealing.
It's not, but it's
When
delicious.
if you
It's
didn't
so
grow up
good.
with it. Another thing, not visually appealing at all, lobsters.
Oh, this story made perfect sense to me.
They just look like giant, sea insects, but they are tasty.
Red Lobster makes changes to all-you-can-eat deals after customers ate so much the restaurant suffered huge losses. Again, this is a mental health story in disguise. Some people, we just don't have that here in America, so some people are so upset they just cry themselves to sleep in their Admiral's Feast.
And also, I think a financial collapse story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where it's like, you know what? I don't know where my next meal this good is coming from. Let me get as many calories as I can.
When I was in college, there one time we went out to a nice sushi restaurant for my friend's birthday, and all of us, without even talking to each other, we just didn't eat all day because we knew we were going to that buffet that night. And it's like, we'll just get all our calories right there.
And it makes the meal so much more enjoyable.
Yeah.
If you go into it that hungry. Now they've gotten rid of that was shrimp. They've gotten rid of the shrimp deal, but now they're talking about doing an all-you-can-eat lobster. But there's a limit. After your 12th Maine lobster, you have to downgrade to crappier lobsters.
Oh. The ones that are always at the back of the tank thinking, I'm just going to live here forever. I've been selected.
And those lobsters have a terrible life, but perhaps not as terrible as the ones who live near this.
We're never going to get them back, quote unquote. More than 56,000 barrels of radioactive waste dumped off of the U.S. coast. The radioactive waste is mostly from hospitals, so it's like low grade nuclear. It's not like there's just plutonium hanging out.
And it was dumped in the 60s, so it's not like recent. But
we're going to we need that neutron laser that I keep hearing about that neutralizes radioactive material. We need the neutron laser.
But they're like, yeah, those are leaking now. Oops. That's why we have the EPA.
And even when we bring the animals into our protected shelters, we still can't be trusted to just interact with them in ways that aren't destructive. What is wrong with us?
I guess technically that's a mazer. 70 coins removed from the stomach of an alligator at a Nebraska zoo. It's the wishing alligator.
Oh. How much money was it? Did it say? How much did he make?
70 metal coins? I don't know. I mean, you think they were all quarters?
Between $10 and $30.
So they didn't have to do surgery on him. What they did was they, I guess, sedated him, jammed a pipe down his throat.
With like a magnet or something?
And then went in there with the reacher. Well, the coins wouldn't be ferrous.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
And I think they just had to go and pluck them one at a time.
Yeah.
Oh. Oops, pinched your stomach lining. Oops, pinched your stomach lining.
I bet gator stomach lining is pretty robust.
Yeah.
I mean, to accumulate 70 coins, how long do you think the majority of the coins are in there?
The article made it sound like they were rapidly accumulated because of some changes in his pen or something, but I figured that it was over years, but the article makes it sound like it was just a couple of months.
Somebody's throwing bacon-wrapped coins in there. And we have some endangered species, but these, luckily, are not as endangered as they used to be, but their endangered status means that if they come and mess up your house, what are you going to do about it?
Group of critically endangered California condors trash woman's deck. So each one of them has a large tag on it. So she's like, oh, can I get rid of these? And animal control was like, nope, they're endangered. You're just going to have to let them be.
Can you just make your porch less hospitable?
Well, they went. And
oh,
then,
wow.
She was on vacation.
Yeah. And then they came back and it was just like, what is going on?
They're beautiful birds.
Look at that.
They look very similar to like what we have around here is turkey vultures, but those are not endangered. That's one of the only animals you can shoot year round in Kentucky because they're everywhere.
Apparently the most you can do to these guys is spray them with a water hose.
Wow.
We did a story on this last week.
Did we?
I think so. Pretty sure. Maybe
Oh,
not.
I might have because I had a list of stories and some of them were.
I thought I forgot to add it last week.
Maybe you did. I read it last week.
Yeah, we all read it last week, but I think we forgot. Just like the rat story.
Yeah.
You know what? If we didn't,
Engagement
bonus.
challenge.
It's a
Sorry.
bonus because we got to use the quote. Krista, what's your favorite book?
Jurassic Park.
Oh, Life Finds a Way.
Oh,
I was like, huh?
Charlotte, a stingray with no male companion, is pregnant in her mountain aquarium.
I was thinking of the episode of House where they talk about human parthenogenesis.
No,
I just wanted to say the
It
word.
might turn out to be one of two possible. There's some small sharks in the tank. So
I think they've discounted the sharks.
She might
Last
have
week-
spontaneously.
Last week the story was sharks.
well,
This-
join us for more of this developing story.
It's interesting. They said though, like, oh no, little Charlotte has a tumor, but it wasn't a tumor.
She's
It
got a
was
little
babies.
bun in the oven.
It's weird how on all the medical scans, another life looks like a tumor at first.
Well, the pregnancy is brutal.
That's weird.
That's all we got.
That's it.
Welcome to March.
Yep. We'll be here for all of March and probably after if
You
we're
don't
lucky.
know that. That's
We won't make any
could
commitments.
easily.
I don't know, something NATO red line something. It's spicy time.
It's fine. Join us for the Doom next week. Goodbye.